It's time for a little Funky Friday. From their funky hidden headquarters, your hosts, Keith and Gary.
Man, I love that intro. That is so cool. Well, Keith, my partner, is not here quite yet. I'm sure he'll be here real soon. But we do have White Keith down there in the bottom and Fat Steven in the top. Our guest of honor is film and TV director and special effects guru, Gary Jones. Welcome to the show, Gary.
It's good to be here.
All right.
About time. I guess I was supposed to be on this show for over a year. So
yeah, we've talked about it, and here it is. It's finally here. And got some comments from our crowd. Of course, our chats here. We got Mr. Zod, Sox Bulletin, Zax, Pat, and let's see who else is here right now. I thought I saw Six here, because Six is usually our moderator. She's probably hiding in the background. Then she's going to be me. She's usually very mean to me, Gary. Maybe you can help straighten her out. She says just awful things to me. And of course, Keith is also in the chat. So, and he's also here with us here. So, but anyway, Gary, I wanted to welcome you to the show, and I'm glad you're finally here. Josh has been here. What I love about the difference between the two of you, you clearly have better internet than Josh.
Yes.
Josh was plagued with delays.
Use a computer, you know.
Right.
You kind of learn those things over a few years if you kind of apply yourself, you know.
Mm-hmm. And Josh still kind of lives in the 70s when it comes to technology. He never changed with the times. But I wanted to hopefully, talk to you about your career. And, let's go back, because we know that Josh, because you, like Josh, is part of that Detroit Mafia thing we were talking about before the show, which is, the group of filmmakers from the Detroit area, which includes Sam Raimi, Rob Tapert, Bruce and Ted are both still considered part of it. Mm-hmm. And you all kind of came up together, and Josh was the first one to leap out of the nest and go there in the mid to late 70s. And but I'm thinking that you probably went before even Sam, didn't you?
No. Sam left before me. Actually, Bill Deere probably.
Oh shit! Yeah, Bill Deere.
Like 1970, I think, because he did his motorcycle movie, Northville Cemetery Massacre, or Freedom R.I.P. is how they shot it. And I think after that he went out to L.A. So Bill Deere would have been first, and I think then Josh went out early 70s. Sam went out right after Evil Dead, I think, to, back and forth. So that would have been 79, 80, 81. And my first movie, Mosquito, which we started actual production in about 93, 94. It came out in 95. So I went out right after that. But I had been out there a couple of times working on other movies, doing special effects. But
that's what you started out doing, period, as I recall, right?
Yep, doing effects for all these guys. Crime Wave was my first movie, which was Sam Raimi's second movie. I worked on that, and then I met Josh Becker and Scott Spiegel and did Thou Shalt Not Kill Except. That was the second movie. And
where Sam Raimi was the villain.
Sam Raimi played the Charles Manson character, yeah, and I got to put squibs on him and wire them all up with squib work and stuff. So it was a lot of fun, and there was only we had $2 on that movie. I made more money driving an ND car in the background on Crime Wave in the freezing cold, drinking hot chocolates all night, than I made, working the entire time on Thou Shalt Not Kill Except. But it was cool though, because it was my first real gig I was in charge of the effects, and I got to run cameras, a couple of scenes and stuff, and then I have a cameo in it. But Thou Shalt Not Kill was really the real start, of me actually doing some creative stuff on the show.
Yeah, I went back to watch it to see your cameo.
Yeah.
But going, because I mean, how did you meet those guys?
It was interesting. I had heard they grew up they were out in Ferndale. They were on the other side of town from me. I was in Mount Clemens on the east side. And I remember reading in the newspaper that these young guys were making this horror movie. And I'm like, how do I find out who they are? And by the time I could track anybody down, they had left and went down south to make the movie. So I kind of didn't really, I really didn't have any connections. So it wasn't until they came back, and then I saw on the news that it was going to be premiering and that they were going to start their next movie. I was like, holy shit, that's the move. Those are those guys, And so after they came back and Evil Dead premiered and then it got into theaters, they started working on their Crime Wave movie. And I saw it on the news. So I called the production. Actually, I called the news up and asked them where the shoot was. I said I was a reporter and I wanted to go out and interview some people. And they gave me all the information of like where all the locations were. So then I just drove out there and met people, so it was really kind of that easy. And I met Scott Spiegel is who I met and talked with him. And he was in charge of hiring the extras.
Right.
So, he was going to hire me as an extra. I said, great. He goes, do you have a car? I go, well, yeah, I got a car. He goes, bring your car. Well, yeah, no problem. He goes, you're going to bring your car, right? I go, well, yeah, I'm bringing my car. Why? So we get there. Well, the reason they wanted us is I wasn't going to be in the movie. They wanted me to be driving my car in the background while the stunt guys were racing up and down the freeway. So he was hiring people to drive the ND cars is what it was, but it was your car. So they sprayed spray glue on gels all over the headlights and stuff. And we just drove up and down the freeway all night. It was a lot of fun. And I met Sam on that and Rob Tappert and Bruce Campbell. And through that, Scott Spiegel was getting ready to do the movie with Josh Becker, their movie, Thou Shalt Not Kill. And that's how I got into that and met those guys. And they hired me kind of on the spot. And I remember I got a check for $50 from Scott. I thought when I walked in there, they were going to hire me to do the effects. I thought, great, I get to quit my job at the factory. I was working on the assembly line. I'm like, I've made it in Hollywood now. I got a real job. I'm doing effects on a movie. Scott Spiegel gives me a check for like $50.
Yeah.
To bring back receipts. And I'm like, $50. And I remember leaving the office and, learning that first lesson about movies and Hollywood of like, it's never what you think it is. It's a lot of work. And sure, there's fun. But so what I did is I moved. They were shooting mostly in the daytime. So I went to the factory and I got on the third shift. So I worked nights at the factory so I could shoot during the day. And so that's what I did. I'd work all night at the factory, get up, and I drive to the set and shoot mid-afternoon with the guys. And all the effects shots, Josh likes to tell the story, all the effects in there where people are being shot or any kind of cool stuff was always right around late afternoon magic hours. So my stuff always looked great. So it was pretty cool. But back in those days, you could kind of work all day in an assembly line and then shoot or work all night, then shoot all day and sleep for like 1 hour.
That's yeah. And I know that they've done some long shoots as far as day to night work.
Those guys, they just go and go and go. They just keep going until people quit or go home. That's how they
right. So working with them between Josh and Sam, which one was more fun?
Josh was a lot of fun. Sam, because I had met him on Crime Wave. So the interesting story on that is I walked in the hotel. It was we're getting ready to go out on the freeway on Crime Wave. I walk in the hotel to use the bathroom. I come out and I'm in the lobby and I'm going, I wonder where Sam Raimi is. I never met him. I saw a picture of him though. And I'm looking around and there's somebody over at the asteroids machine playing asteroids. And it was Sam Raimi, like the whole crew's outside. They're getting ready to go shoot all this chase stuff. He's in there playing asteroids. And I'm like, wow, pretty cool. And then Rob Tappert comes downstairs, like chain smoking cigarettes. The producer's like losing his mind. And
I've always loved stories about that guy.
So, that's where I met Sam. But on Thou Shalt Not Kill, he played the Charles Manson character. And Crime Wave had come out and it bombed. It tanked, right? So he was like, didn't know what he was going to do. We're like, wow, what are you going to do next, Sam? And I don't know. And but he was a lot of fun. I got to put the squibs on him. And you remember him saying, Now, listen, pal, are these things going to hurt? And back in the day, they were firecracker squibs we made, with solar igniters and firecrackers and wax and stuff. And I said, well, it depends. Am I going to work on your next movie? I said,
that'll leave a mark.
You got it, kid. So, but no, Sam was quiet, he wouldn't talk much, he was cool, but I think he was really on that movie, he was trying to figure out his next move. His movie had tanked, Crime Wave. And it's like, what's he going to do next? So it was kind of a weird time. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll, looks like Josh and Scott are making movies. I'll go that way, And a few years later, they got, Evil Dead 2. They just kind of went back to the beginning, made Evil Dead 2. So, but Sam, Josh was always more fun to work with on the set. Sam was always more reserved, but I learned more stuff from Sam, mainly in how to kind of deal with big crews and people and stuff and sort of get what you want. Whereas Josh just gets mad. Well, fuck, just do it, and he'll just blow up, And I always thought, well, you talk to people that way, they may not give you 100%. Maybe they're going to give you 80%, And especially when you're not paying anybody hardly anything. You kind of can't really beat up the crew when you're not paying them or feeding them much,
Yeah, that's the problem with low to no budget indie filmmaking.
Yeah, and so I learned something from Sam, working on the reshoots for Evil Dead 2. They shot down south, but then they came to Michigan to finish it. And I did all the effects and stuff on the reshoots, had a great time with them, doing spinning heads through the air and, smashing windows, and did all the miniature trees that attacked the cabin. We built all those miniatures and stuff. But on Army of Darkness was really the thing, because, he had, 30 horses, right? 100 people over here, 100 people in Deadite outfits, swords, and they're all coming together, and he's shooting this Spartacus stuff, it's just huge action stuff. And, I watched him block it and the stage this stuff and everything. And, I was doing pyrotechnics on the show and props, and I just saw how he handled everything. And when things went bad, he would go up to someone and go, okay, pal, that didn't work, but next time it's going to work better, right? Okay, let's go for it. It was always more encouragement than beating up, so, but it was just interesting. Two different styles. I learned a lot from Josh. The biggest thing I took away from Josh was he was going to do it no matter what. He's loading the film, shooting, directing, scraping together some money to go buy a burger. He would not stop. That's what Josh had. He was not going to stop. He was unstoppable. Sam always seemed to me like when I worked with him, he had the money and he had the toys and he had the crew. He had budgets. When I worked with him, he had real budgets. Josh had nothing. And so it was kind of a two different things, but yeah, I'd say, yeah, I learned from both of them. But
well, looks like Gary is.
Sorry, I'm muting my mic because there's sounds going on behind me. I'm sorry.
Oh.
But the first way I heard of who you were was because I called Josh and he answered the phone, hello. And I went, hey, Josh, it's Gary. He goes, well, which one? I know two of them. You're one of them, but I don't know which one. So identify. Like, it's Gary Kissel. Herr Kissel.
There you go.
He's called me Herr Kissel for like 20 some years. But it's like I love the stories of all the projects, and I'm curious, having worked on, because I've heard Josh's perspective of working on Army of Darkness. You worked on it. What all were you doing? Were you doing effects? Were you also doing any gaffer's work? What were you doing?
I was a mechanical effects foreman. So Vern Hyde was the supervisor on it. And I worked under him, and I also did special props. So we made, me and my, at the time I had a effects partner, Dave Wogue. We started out together with our company, Acme Special Effects. That's kind of how we got into stuff.
Right.
And, we built the mechanical hand, the whammo hand for Bruce. We made a lot of rubber swords. We made the sword spark. We did a lot of props. We built the Death Coaster.
Now, did you use electricity to make them spark?
Yeah.
I knew it.
Ran them out to a buzz box there. Just, very simple. And so it was really mechanical effects. I was in the mechanical effects department, but I did all the rubber props, the special, rubber parts and swords, a lot of, different swords, retractable swords, all that stuff. But I also got to do pyrotechnics. We had a ton of that stuff. So we would sit out, behind the castle for like 2 hours, just wrapping up black powder bombs, And so it was just way cool. I mean, I had done all that stuff back in Michigan. I mean, I had explosives licenses when I started out. So me and my partner, Dave Woe, we were the only ones doing pyro in Michigan on all the low budget stuff. So it was great to be out in LA. And now I'm doing it for, big show. But it was just, that movie was really brutal and hard, but it was really fun. I mean,
and I'm hoping that you got paid properly on that one because Dino De Laurentiis was backing it.
Yeah, I always got paid good, and every time, here's the thing too. Every time I worked on Sam's projects or movies, to this day, every time I've made more money, and I went from effects and props and stuff to directing, to the Xenas and stuff, and then to the movies. I've always made more money. And
sorry. And that's the way to work it. Before we get into everybody jumping in to ask questions, I want to hit the chat real quick. First of all, our good friend, Mexican Iron Man, Mike, is here. And he says, "Hell, Gary. Howdy to the great panel. Happy weekend. Thanks for coming in, Mexican Iron Man. And thanks for the $9 American. There you go, my friend. That's the money I want." And then our buddy Sean says, "Horses are terrifying. They have metal feet and long faces. And they're also my least favorite thing to draw, even though I'm apparently good at drawing them, because they also have only two expressions, nothing and absolutely shit terrified." So it's like, if you give them anything else, you become anthropomorphic. And I hate drawing anything anthropomorphic. So let's see. We've got some more hails going on here. And no questions. I don't see any. But of course, that horse comment's from the Army of Darkness, from Sean. And there we go. All right. So let's go, panel. Do your thing. Let's start with Steven.
What?
You got any questions? Anything you want to talk about with Gary?
I'm not very familiar with the amount of prop work you've done, but is there a favorite prop in general you had the most fun working on? And what was your least favorite, to be honest?
Probably the most fun prop would have been that mechanical hand that we made for Bruce.
Yeah.
Because Sam wanted to see stuff, and he said it needs a pump. It needs some way to make it charged up. And so I knew what he meant, and he didn't say it. And I was talking with Dave. I said, we have to remember the Whammo air gun. You pumped it up and shot. I go, we got to give him the Whammo air gun pump thing. So we didn't tell Sam, we put it all together, and then we showed Sam, and I go, look, it's like the Whammo thing. And he just kind of lit up. And he was like, yes. Because he falls in love with like things like that, and he'll put them in the movie and use them. But if it's a throwback, if you can bring stuff from the past. So I'd have to say the mechanical hand was probably the most fun or the coolest prop. The least fun on that same movie would have been the retractable swords. No, I'm sorry, the retractable sword out of the body gag. So we had it on I'd made a thing where Sam wanted to stab people from behind, but see the sword tip come out.
So was it like a timer system where you had to hit the back and go at the same time, or was it like you had to do a movement? Yeah,
well, and he wanted the guy moving around, spinning around in the shot and stuff. So what I did was I took a Venetian blind, piece of metal, and how you can bend it, it'll wrap, but you let it go and it kind of goes straight again. So I put a weight belt on the guy and put it through rollers. And when it came to the front rollers, 2 rollers. And so it's 2 blades together. And as it goes through like this, one wraps around the other way and the other one just comes out. So I did it spring loaded with a cable release. It worked great in the shop. It worked great when I showed it to Sam on the set in front of 350 people. Well, then, of course, I'm thinking Sam's going to shoot it like me, right? No, what he did was, so I had like 8 feet of cable, 10 feet of cable. So what he did is he sets the big shot up, right? Where one army's on this side, the other army's on this side, and the camera's going to boom right on down into it as everybody's rushing together, and the guy's going to come running out and get stabbed. Of course, horses and people and shit. So I'm chasing after this guy. We extended the cable another 10 feet, so I got 25 feet on it. And it's in the desert in Acton. And so first take, he goes action and horses and shit and everything, as much shit as he could throw at it. And I'm running behind, 20 feet behind, just out of camera range with this fucking cable thing. And it's filling up with dirt. So as soon as we get in there and the guy gets stabbed, it won't work.
It's jammed. Oh,
jammed up. And then the second time it barely worked. So we did it one more time and it broke. And because it got too jammed with too much shit, and I had, at that point I was 30 feet of cable on it. It wasn't going to work.
I'm just trying to picture you running behind the guy with horses and shit everywhere going, please work, please work, please work, please work, please work.
Well, it's in the movie. There's a shot and everybody's coming together, and it's clashing and all this shit. And I'm just outside the edge of frame, like right over here, and it didn't work, and after the third time, I'm on the set there, right? Cut. Sam comes over to me and goes, okay, pal, this isn't going to work here, but we'll shoot it next week. And I want it to work. Okay. And I'm like, you got it. And so I'm wrapping the shit up and I hear one of the grips go, special defects, off the set. And people
special defects.
Oh, that's
so,
so
you've got all the crew and everything. So I'm hearing some people laugh over there, stuff. I turn and look and my good buddy Dave Wogue and the other guys helping me. I look, they're like slinked way off out of the way, and I'm like all alone out here. And so I'm unrigging this thing, and I'm going, Sam's got the best job, directing is the best job. That's what I always wanted to do. And I'm like, Sam's job, that's the job I want, and anyway, 2 weeks later, we shot it again. This time I took the cable off and I put a pneumatic piston on it, the big hulking thing up the guy's back, and just almost knocked him over when it worked, but it worked every time.
You kind of got your vengeance in a way, like, okay, if it's not going to work with me doing, I'll just try to make the other guy fall over.
Right.
Exactly.
It's on the scene where guy's climbing up a ladder and he gets stabbed. He falls over. Guy stabbed him from the front. So it actually worked. And we shot that on a stage. But so that would be the least, it was my favorite gag because it just worked great, 10 feet away.
Once you got that. Yeah.
Because you get it dirty and shit, this fucks up,
You should honestly think
I
about.
want to thank Rebecca for giving us a $20 super sticker. Thank you, sweetheart. I'm not going to complain to you, even though you're telling me that I'm not your real mom and I can't tell you what to donate because I chewed you out the last time. But your shop is open again and you're making money. So you donate all the hell you want. Okay. We love you, Rebecca. And Six is watching the chat out there. Let's see. Oh, man, the mechanical hand is the best. Yeah. I love that thing. Well, Sean, this is the guy who made it. So, yes, you're not worthy. Yes, you're not worthy. Yes,
I love watching it pump that thing up in the film, man. It was fun.
Yeah. And, I think back and I go, it was the same thing on Xena, when I was on there, when we first started Xena, I was on the second unit and we had these shock rams, the Frisbee and the swords and all the shit. It just never occurred to me to ask them to get one of those when the show was over. I'm thinking now, if I had that mechanical hand now, I might be able to put it on eBay for $1 or $2 or 10,
Before I start a question, I wanted it was attached to this, but ever since I heard the special defects thing, have you ever thought about actually like doing a series, like maybe a 5-minute episode, and showing special defects and how you've had bloopers over the years while doing some of this stuff or other stories?
No, that's actually not a bad idea because it's like every movie, it happens all the time, because they don't always work because you're doing stuff that's not supposed to work that way.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always working with not enough money. So, you're trying to find something. Well, I can just retrofit this, make it work, and you never really have enough time to, you really test things. You can test them, but you really never can test them on the spot, with the smoke or the environment or whatever. So yeah, it's that's not a bad idea. Yeah, I got quite a few. Quite a few of those. Even on the latest movie.
Well, we need to move to our next panelist, which is I haven't introduced you yet. His nom de plume is T-shirted historian, a man after my own heart, as we are both fans of history. And
Blade Runner.
And Blade Runner. He said you Blade Runner. T-shirt. Do you have any questions for our amazing guest, who is also paying me to do artwork?
Oh hell yes! I've got tons of questions and comments and stuff, man. I've got like
to be guest without the amazing, but go ahead.
I literally have like 6.
You gotta pay for the words, man.
I got like 6 copies of Army of Darkness here, all the different versions of them. So
cool.
I'm a huge fan.
Cool.
So yeah, all the special effects on that film, it's like, man, they're so much fun, and they look like they're so much fun. So I imagine you had a great time putting them together.
I was, it's like a dream job, because we're like, Sam's like, okay, I need a catapult, okay, yeah, we'll get to build a catapult. Okay, cool. And he goes, I want to have the camera's going to follow one of the, the flaming balls, the bombs right on down to the, and blow up. So we hooked a cable up, and they hung a basket on it, and we had our flame ball in front of it. It was just on a wheel thing, and we just let it go, and it slid down on fire. I mean, he loved Sam was really big, obviously on the practical effects. And there was one gag I didn't have time to build for him. And I made the mistake of telling him I was going to do it. And, he kept hounding me about it. I told him when we were making the Death Coaster, we had the spinning rotor blades and stuff, and
I love the Death Coaster.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, we made, those were like big aluminum tubes that we made a mold, and we put polyfoam over them so that, it'd hurt, and it would bend before it would cut you in half. But so we were making all that. And I told him, I got this idea for a gag. I said, what if I take a gauntlet, and put a bunch of spikes on it and put it on the, the classic, the little rack thing, I forget what it's called, but in the Stooges, it's like the boxing glove comes out on the little, can't remember what it's called, but that rig, it's sort of like a
little accordion rig.
Accordion rig. And Sam's like, you got to do that, man. You got to do that. And I just didn't have time. And I'm like, I started making something and, we were so under the gun. There was so much going on, and I didn't get it done. And he's like, okay. But that's how Sam was when you were working with him. I mean, if you did something like that, that was a real throwback, or it clicked into the Stooges or any of that, you just kind of see him light up. And you look around, there's hundreds of people and all this gear and stuff, but he's excited about that 10-cent thing, And so you get, he's this fan, he's movies, it's about movies. The other stuff's there, but it's creating those moments. And, but that was the thing, just trying to get, it was a lot of fun doing. There was a lot of work to do, and we were shooting nights. So when we couldn't get things done in time, we had to stay up in the daytime and do them, get a half hour of sleep, or I'd sleep and my buddy would drive the truck, But once we got out there, and they had the most amazing food, the food trucks that come out and you'd have steaks and lobster and stuff. And they fed us like kings, And so by about 9 o'clock at night, man, you have the coffee and everything and the steak, you're ready to go. And we're blowing up shit, and we're making movies, man. It was just a dream job. And when it ends, it's really, it's depressing, like, when are we going to start this again, But it was a really good time, except for when the crane fell over the gravel pit. That wasn't cool. But other than that, it was a cool time.
Well, I've read Bruce Campbell's, If Chins Could Kill. I mean, he signed it for me and everything. And he was actually mentioning at some point on the production that those they got really skinny people to play those skeletons because they had the skeleton suits. Yeah. He says, as uncomfortable as they must have been, apparently they caught a couple of people having sex in them on the set.
Yeah, I think there was some shenanigans going on out there. It was a wild time, I mean, and you have that sleep deprivation, you know, so you're kind of running on adrenaline and everything else, you know, and I don't think I saw anything, but I heard stuff, and I don't know what was going on behind the castle, you know, plastic walls and stuff. But yeah, it was a good time. But I wouldn't doubt it. I met gosh, I just blanked on his name. He played one of the Deadites. He's in all Rob Zombie's movies. I just blanked. Bill Moseley.
Bill Moseley.
Bill Moseley, and I met him on that. You know, he's like, we're riding back in a van, and he takes his hood off. I'm like, hey, Bill Moseley, you know, from Texas Chainsaw 2, you know. So we started talking and everything, and so that was cool. You know, just it was just good, you know. And Sam would have director day. You know, he'd have different directors show up and hang out on the set, and guy who did Maniac. Sam would have director day. You know, he'd have different directors show up and hang out on the set. And,
that's
is anyone else experiencing deja vu?
Yes.
That was bizarre.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. All right, well, I'm gonna ask you to shift gears for just a minute because I am a big fan of Robert Bronzi. Okay, I mean, because I'm a huge Charles Bronson fan. I've got all the Charles Bronson films, and then when I first saw Death Kiss on the shelf, I said, like, oh my God, is that Charles Bronson? He's dead, though. So I picked it up, and I was like, oh, man, this is great. Because every Robert Bronzi film I've seen, you know, and you've done a bunch of them, and you've worked with him a bunch. And they're so much fun because they're like good old-fashioned, you know, 80s, you know, films. You know, there's no politics, there's no agenda or anything else. There's just good time having a film. You can sit down and watch them. Well, I gotta know, man. What's Robert Bronzi like, man?
You know, it's great. He's Hungarian, and he's very nice guy, kind of quiet, and he looks you in the eyes when he's talking to you. You know, to see you know, and he doesn't have a great command of the English language. He understands it somewhat, you know, so he's always listening and everything. But he's just a sweetheart guy. He's the nicest guy, and you know, and he's older, and this is sort of like he has a second a career, a different career, you know, that's more exciting than his construction job. And he's just a real sweetheart guy, and he would, you know, kind of do anything on my Escape from Death Block 13 is my latest movie, and he's
I see that. Yeah.
He was just a trooper, man, and I gave him a ton of dialogue. He's like, Gary, this is a lot of dialogue. I go, yes, it's talking pictures. This is, you know, we need dialogue in this movie, you know. And what I did is I had written the script, but then I had met him at Texas Frightmare. I helped my buddy produce Death Kiss, and I did visual effects on that and helped him do the trailer and get all that done. And so I was aware of Bronzi from that, and at first I thought, this is a gag. You can't do this, you know. Come on, Death Kiss, Death Wish. This is ridiculous. Then it just hit me. I'm like, no, this is perfect. Because, you know, I grew up on those action movies, the 70s and 80s action movies, and we just don't have people like that, you know. There's a lot of guys out there right now, action guys, Jason Statham, you know, you can list them, but there's no Lee Marvins and Charles Bronsons and McQueens. I mean, we just don't have those kind of people. So I instantly went, you know, Bronzi gets me back to those movies I loved, you know, growing up that I wanted to make. And I like, you know, I'm going to take the chance. He's going to be the star of my new movie. So I had the script written, but then when I met him at Texas Frightmare, I sat down with him and I ran some lines with him. And then we went in the bar and we, you know, had a couple shots and stuff. And I realized I got to rewrite this so that the way he talks, you know, like Bronzi would talk, you know. And so I spent a lot of time talking to him and going through lines and stuff just so I could get get down exactly how he would say things. So I rewrote his dialogue so that it would fit him better, you know. And I took things out, and, you know, left words out and stuff, and told him, you know, change that word, but you got to say this word, you know, because I realized trying to make him be something he's not was never going to work. And I also told him, you got the gimmick, right? So the gimmick is you look like Charles Bronson. It's a gimmick. we got to get past the gimmick as quickly as possible, or it's a one-trick pony. People will get tired of the fact that you walk and stand and point and just do the mannerisms. If you're just doing a satire of this guy, or you're just mimicking everything, it ain't gonna let you. Your career you can't go far. I didn't think. So I said, I'm going to kind of make you stretch in this. You're not just going to do what Bronson would do. I said, what would you do? His name's Robert Kovacs. I said, what would Robert Kovacs do? I go, I would like to get to the point where people will look past you as looking like Bronson. So that's what I try to do with Death Block. I try to go, okay, I know what I got. I know I got to do these things. We got the great winks and stuff in there. And there's like 4 or 5 really cool moments that just lended itself, for the fans of Bronson. But what I try to do is go away from that and say, this is a guy from Hungary, and I changed his character to a guy from Hungary coming over to collect a debt, and we changed things on the set. I changed some dialogue, some scenes I rewrote. I talked to him about, I go, well, what would you do? And he goes, well, I'd probably go like this. I'm like, well, then let's go over here and do this, So I try to make it more fit him, but still give the audience that look, and so I think I was pretty successful at it. Time will tell. We'll see. We're going to be hopefully be coming out in about 2 months. I'm talking with distributors right now. We're getting close. So I think the audiences are waiting for it. So we'll see how they react. But I think it's his best.
Yeah.
I think it's the best thing he's done, and he gives a performance. I mean, he has tough dialogue scenes. He has things to do.
Plus, I hear you have a really cool poster.
Yeah, eventually I'm going to get a cool poster.
Hey, we've got a super chat here from our buddy Sean Crummell. And he wants to know, being on such a crazy schedule, are you even able to enjoy the job at the time you're working on it? Or does that come with when you're looking back on it?
It's when I'm doing it. I mean, I enjoy prepping it and thinking about it and planning the shoot. And I enjoy afterwards putting it together and all that. But right now, to me, being on that set, once I'm there and we're making the movie, the die is cast, right? We're creating that movie. The rest of the world exists, but it doesn't exist. The problems are out there still, but I don't see them, right? So making the movie is the most fun. And then the premiere is the second most fun. And it's very satisfying, but really that's one night, after that, it's like, okay, time for the next movie.
And then it's the returns that make it fun.
Well, sure. Those millions, when those millions roll in, there's nothing better, but no, it's making the movie. Cause look, I've done a lot of movies, and unfortunately on a lot of movies, you don't make money, or you don't get, you don't make profit. And so you better love making movies. It's like, you can be a plumber and you can make a living, but you got to kind of enjoy plumbing, or you ain't going to be a good plumber,
Yep. Very simple. Hey, CJ Snakes wants to know, I need to ask this dude, being you, Gary,
yes,
if Kevin Sorbo is as awesome as he seems on Twitter.
Yes. He, very cool guy. And I met him down in New Zealand. When I was doing Hercules, he was obviously, or doing Xena, he was Hercules. And then I directed him in one episode of Hercules, but I really got to know him when he came out.
Wasn't that when you got your cherry popped as a director?
No, it was
on TV.
Oh, TV was Xena. Yes.
Oh, it was Xena. I thought it was Hercules.
Xena. Yep. I did Xena. I did the second unit for the first season, and then directed the last episode of the first season, and then 2 episodes in season 2. And then I did a Hercules episode before I moved on to somewhat not quite bigger things, but different things. But I really got to know Kevin Sorbo when he came out to Bulgaria for the movie Lightning Strikes that I directed. And he was a star. And we got to really hang out, and that was cool. He's a super guy, and he's down to earth. He gets it.
Yeah, Keith and I met him, and we recorded a message from him to Josh, and then we did a quick interview with him, and just a really easy guy to talk to. But Keith, who I have not introduced to you officially, my partner there is just below White Keith. And
hey, Keith.
Hello.
and he has a question
you're the
statement.
Okay,
and you and I are probably the only two that know who the best man at Rob Tapert and Lucy Lawless's wedding was.
Who the best man was?
Yeah.
Would have been Bruce, right?
Nope. It's Josh.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was Josh. I was thinking Bruce.
Ha! I beat you on Josh trivia. I win.
Well, when you said best man, I'm thinking, well, it ain't Josh Becker, you know. But yeah, you know what? That's pretty interesting. Yeah, because Josh kind of has a lot to do with those two. I won't say getting together, but Josh was the one that kind of went, you got to cast Lucy. You got to get Lucy in that part, you know. So he pushed that on to Rob. And so Josh says, and I'm assuming it's true, but I'm pretty sure it's true. So he had a lot to do with that. And but yeah, Josh is really good about seeing, you know, talent out there and seeing things and figuring out, well, if you're going down that road, this is what you need. And but yeah, it worked out great.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of faith in Josh's abilities. I do want to mention real quick, we have Orville Nation give us a $3 super sticker. Thanks a lot, Orville Nation. We appreciate you guys and love your shows. And then our own Jedi 6 gave us $5. Gary, you're a duty head and I love you. Thanks, 6. And she's talking about me, Gary, obviously.
Yeah,
because you're not a duty head. You're a decent dude.
Gary.
In fact, of all the people I've met through Josh, I think you're my favorite person to talk to because we get along really well. We have similar thoughts on things.
Yes. Strange that the way that is,
but hey, our next person in line there is Geek Time TV, White Keith.
Howdy.
Or as one of our mutual friends calls him, Quiche.
That's you, Gary.
I didn't start that.
Who started that?
It was either Mexican Mike or Polly.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
But Keith is a good friend of ours, and he's part of our panel, and I'm glad he's back from vacation with his family to be here to ask. Yay. So what questions do you bring to our guest?
Gary, nice to meet you. I'm actually going to go back to the beginning. Sorry. I know you've gone.
No,
further.
It's cool. He's good with it. Don't worry.
But, I'm fascinated by ingenuity and effects. I'm friends with someone who used to work at ILM, and I'm friends with Doug Trumbull.
Oh, wow.
Lives nearby. And
Trumbull, man.
Yeah. And
that's
it's
awesome.
Every time I go up there, it's like hanging out with Doc Brown. And, he's still innovating and trying to.
Yeah, I mean, they invented that whole thing, man. They just came up with that process that really changed the science fiction movies.
Yeah,
it made that leap that it needed, to get it accepted for Hollywood to go. Yeah, this is a place we need to go. This look. But,
completely. So I'm fascinated with your beginnings. I'm really good friends with a woman who does makeup and effects, and she does a lot of low budget films. And so I think what I'm thinking is more of when you were experimenting with technique early on, okay, we've got to accomplish this.
Mm-hmm.
I have X amount of dollars in a pile of spare parts, a kitchen set, whatever. But then there's the insurance and safety,
right?
You've got to consider. So right. I think my question is kind of like, how did you come up with these ideas without murdering someone by accident? Because you clearly probably didn't have the best production insurance at the time and things like that. So.
Production what?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. No production insurance. No. Right.
Well, I mean, I actually, my start was taking the GI Joes out in the yard. So that tells you the kind of time frame with firecrackers and rubber cement. And I hate to go into this, but we had a swimming pool, so we had, chlorine, powdered chlorine, and it makes nice colors when you burn it, But so we would do these battles, and my dad was in construction, so the yard was always dug up. My mom would always hate it. It's like, when are you going to plant the grass? And I'm like, don't plant the grass. We got foxholes out here. This is great. So we had our G.I. Joes out there, and we'd set firecrackers up and pull a Jeep on a string, blow it up, flip it over, So that's kind of how we started. It was just, I always loved the movies, and it was always about, well, how do you do it? Well, we had firecrackers, I did get to a library and found a book called The Technique of Special Effects Cinematography by Fielding, I think it was. And in it, there was a few pages. And then I found this really obscure magazine, and I don't know why they would ever publish it. But I opened it up, and it showed a guy wrapping up a black powder bomb and putting it in a metal container in the ground and pouring charcoal in there and cement dust and cork, and then hooking it up to a battery and light and setting it off. And I realized that's how they were doing those explosions in the war movies. So I would get these like hints of things. And then Fangoria magazine came out, and Famous Monsters of Filmland was really the first where you get a glimpse of a mold or, painting rubber. And I heard latex, So back then, you would just get bits of information. And so as soon as I could get some money, I'd start getting these things and practicing. So I actually started in like makeup effects and sculpting, and then went into mechanical effects and miniatures. We were always building, models and put them in the swimming pool with firecrackers and blowing them up. And it's, just crazy stuff. And, growing up in the Midwest too, is like, in Michigan, you'd get firecrackers and M80s. I mean, all that stuff was readily available, and you didn't have the issues, I never heard about anybody blowing their hand off, so we never thought about it. But pretty early on, I realized you need to get it away from those things. And that's when we started to go with solar igniters, okay. So
which, for folks out there, that's what we used with rockets. When you're going to launch rockets, you either had the battery one, which was more expensive, or you just got solar igniters.
Yeah,
and they were great for blowing shit up.
And so that was, using in model rockets and all that. So it was really about experimenting with things. But I'd watch a lot of movies, and I watch as much behind the scenes stuff. I saw the behind the scenes on Bridge on the River Kwai, or a Humphrey Bogart movie, or The Longest Day. There was a really good behind the scenes thing, and they showed guys rigging stuff in the ground, and putting like a bomb inside of a cement bag, putting dirt on it. I'm like, the hell's that? Well, when you see it, it's all dust in the background. Well, and there's cork, and so it's a sound. So you would just get hints of things. But that's how we did, is we'd watch the movies, and I'd think, what could I use for that? So one of the interesting things we would always go to the hardware store or the electrical supply, or, we had these great places that were like surplus, and you could get anything. This was back in the day when they still had stuff from the 40s and 50s just hanging on shelves, but, and we would just go get stuff and go, well, hey, this does this. Why don't we use this? So really it was getting some information, but then practicing. And I had my old car behind the shop, and I said, well, I got to get an explosives license if we want to get real squibs. So I made some calls, and I got a guy out in California that actually gave me information, said, well, you need to do this, you need to do that, and I can sell you these. So I filled out paperwork, mailed stuff in. I got a explosive license in Michigan, and then I got a federal firearms license pretty quickly. And all of a sudden I'm like, now I can buy pyro. This is like late 70s.
And you needed the FFL to get to do the ammo. Is that what it was? Or what did you need the FFL for?
Well, because I wanted to rent blank firing weapons for the
blank
movie.
firing weapons. Okay.
And so I made friends with a company, Stembridge, out in LA, who was the big company that handled all the weapons.
Yeah, because to be an armorer, you have to have an FFL. That's right.
And I wanted to bring in machine guns, and fire blanks through them. So the guns are modified, but they're still classified. So once I got these licenses, I was ordering, Hollywood squibs, det cord. I said, well, I want to blow some stuff up with, he goes, well, you want to use det cord. Here's how you do it. And the guy on the phone for hours with this guy, he just befriended me, and he would give me all this information. So we'd order stuff. We had a junk car out in the back, and, we put 100 feet of cable on it, wire on it. And we just tested things. And, we never got hurt. We were always pretty conscious of that we were lucky to be doing this, at that age, and I knew if I was going to go on a set, if I hurt someone, it was all over with,
right.
There wasn't going to be anymore. So we always did it out back the shop. We always tested all the squibs on us. I got the little tiny squibs that they used in The Godfather, and we did a prosthetic on the forehead. We tested it all on ourselves, and sometimes it hurt. I'm like, whoa, need a little more padding on that one, But that's what you did. It was back in the day when you just, today you just go on the internet. It's all there, right?
Right. Well, that's why I kind of, I have that nostalgia for back when you had to be ingenuitive and work with what you had.
And I noticed this with a lot of people that I grew up with, mainly from, the East Coast and stuff, where you had to just make things,
right.
You had to make it work. And, we would find bike cables and figure out, well, this is a cable. This will work for a eye blink, and
right.
We just had to find things out. We're making stop motion models. Okay. Oh, we need a ball and socket armature. Well, I read that if you heat the balls, the ball bearings up, you can drill them. So
you heat the balls, do you?
Amazing things can happen here.
We heat up these ball bearings, and then you could drill them, right? Well, we heat them up, and then we drop them in water to cool them off. Then we'd break our drill bits because the guy goes, no. If you put them in water, you're making it harder. Oh, okay. So we'd heat them up and drill them, so we would learn by doing, and it was like, it wasn't fast, it took years, and, you'd waste money, and spend money. Sure. And then Super 8 movie cameras, and stuff. So it was really learning by doing. I never went to school for any of it, but the biggest hook was getting on these low budget, like Thou Shall Not Kill. That was all firecracker squibs because I didn't have a license then. And we had engineered the firecracker squib to work like about 75% of the time, which was pretty good. And so that's what we used, and I got to say, some of them actually looked better. The blood worked great. Sometimes you'd see a lot of papers, the firecrackers. Sometimes you'd get a perfect spray of blood. But no, the other thing I learned from it was you look at something, analyze it, and break it down. You can look at, open up a cell phone or look at a TV set. Well, how does it work? Open up the back. Well, this comes in, So I think one of the things we learned back in the day was you spent a lot of time using your mind to figure out how you can make something work. How does that work? What could you use to make that work? And that really helped us with the effects stuff. I mean, it helped me get into effects, and it helped me to, die 1,000 deaths in front of everybody with my stupid little, sword rig that didn't work, but it was all a process, but I don't regret it because it actually helped me as maybe a filmmaker too.
Yeah.
Gave me a leg up.
Well, mistakes are made. Well, it happens. I told you about one of the producers of our show. He, when we were kids, I made a mold of his face and didn't put the right release on his eyebrows and eyelashes. And pulled a lot of hair.
I've been the test dummy for my friend Jackie when she does makeup trials.
And I have to tell a story real quick because CJ Snakes wants to know. And when I was a kid, I was 10 or 11, and we had a huge snowfall in Virginia where I grew up. And we had close to about 5 feet of snow. And a bunch of my friends and I dug a 100-foot trench through the snow. And I got my Galileo 7 Star Trek space shuttle. Cool. And I cut it open and I put a seat in there and I put a lot of fabric on her. And I got my hamster, Charlie Brown, and I strapped him in. I made a ping pong ball helmet for him. And I created
kill this hamster.
A rocket sled is what I did. I put a D rocket on the bottom of this thing and used not Bondo duct tape and dug that trench. It was like 5 feet deep by 100 feet long and about 1.5 feet wide. And I got a solar igniter, detonated that D rocket, and all you saw was it go about 10 feet forward, and then it just disappeared to the left into the snow. It just disappeared.
And all you found was the little ping pong
I was
golf
screaming. I was screaming, going, "Oh my God, oh my God." We go running, and we ran because off about 150 feet in the snow, smoke started coming out from way off in the distance, and we ran all the way down there. I opened it up, and there was my poor hamster, completely traumatized, had a little tiny red spot of blood where its butt was. And I was so like, "I'll never do that to you again, Charlie Brown. I'm so sorry."
Gary, that's the best story ever.
Oh, man.
No, there's so many more dumb things I did in my life.
Reported to PETA.
And I was like 10 or 11. Jesus Christ.
We had an interesting thing that when I was at my buddy's house, and he had a huge field behind his house, and it was at the time when we started getting beer. We were that age, and we had someone buy us like a case of beer and black powder because we couldn't buy it, right?
A case of beer and black powder.
Oh, shit.
That's a weekend.
So we would be out in the back, and we'd be drinking beer and stuff, but we were doing our war movie effects, so we're digging holes and putting black powder bombs in them with solar igniters and wires and stuff. Right. And they had big mounds of cow manure out there and just wood chip.
Oh no.
And we're just blowing shit up, right? 20-foot explosions. Well, so we're way out in the back, and all of a sudden here comes like 3 police cars racing through the field at us. And we're like, "Oh fuck." Right. And so what's the first? We're looking around, we're like, "Oh." So hide the beer. Right. So we got rid of the beer. Well, of course, what's sitting over there is all this black powder and all these bombs and stuff. Cops come out. "What are you guys doing?" He goes, "Oh, we're testing stuff for a war movie we're going to make." "Oh, you guys going to make a movie?" "Huh, yeah, sure." Right. And he goes, "What are you doing with what is it, black powder?" "Yeah, well, we're doing explosions." "What do you mean?" "Well, we wire it up, and we couldn't deny it, right? They had seen it, we had dirt flying in the air, and here comes these cars. So we showed them what we were doing, and we're doing it like this, and everything. Like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, you guys be safe." They got in the cars and they left. And we're like, "What the hell?" Drag the beer out, do some more explosions. That was back. You're talking like the 70s.
Yeah, different time.
Never worked today, It was a different time, and nobody was doing it. Nobody was trying to rob banks or anything, And we were, just having fun, and kind of living some sort of a dream, like trying to figure out how to make movies, Well, if you couldn't make the movie, at least we could blow the ground up, and blow up some holes and stuff. And
blow shit up, man. That's fun stuff to do.
But anyways, I worked all that out, but I still try to. Every movie I try to do at least some squibs or at least blow something up or put miniatures in there and destroy it. Because it's sort of like my thing from the past. I just love all that, the hands-on, the practical thing. Right. CG stuff's good, but if I watch one of the Marvel movies or the superhero things, I know I'm not looking at anything. It's all fake. So it's like
cartoon.
Ain't nothing there. It's all built. So they're entertaining. But to me, it's like having the physical stuff there as much as possible. The actors interact with it. And I know somebody built it. It's always like, "Oh man, they built that and just destroyed that. Isn't that cool?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not, "Oh man, they had 30 young guys sitting at computers for 6 months, drinking hot tea and Red Bull. Big deal."
Yeah, that's it. You can do anything with a computer. I appreciate practical effects. The Mission Impossible and things like that, where they do the practical stuff.
Gotta have
James Bond. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to move down because Keith hasn't gotten to ask you a question yet.
Hey.
My partner, Keith, not white Keith above me here. Keith, my brother, what questions do you bring to this?
Okay. What was the first episode of Xena that you got a chance to direct?
My first episode was called The Greater Good. I did second unit for the whole first season of Xena.
Mm-hmm.
And when it got toward the end of the season, I did 22 episodes. There was 24 for the first season. And the 23rd episode, Dave Paulson directed second unit. and I directed The Greater Good, which was the last episode shot of the first season. So that was my first episode. And that's the one, I don't know if you guys remember it, but that was the one where Xena gets sick. She got shot with a dart and she's sick and dying. And Gabrielle has to put on her outfit and pretend like she's Xena and go out there and fight the bad guys.
I remember that one.
You're a little short to be Xena.
Yeah. And you know, we think Xena dies, you know, from the poison dart. And so it was a really good, I was really happy to get that script because I thought, wow, you know, Gabrielle has to come in there and think Xena's dead. You know, this is going to be a great scene. And of course, you know, it was the last episode of the first season, and everybody was tired and waiting to get the hell out of there. So, you know, we were a little under the gun, but they let me go pretty crazy with it. And then when I finished on main unit, I went to second unit and helped out Dave, and we just shot like tons of stuff. Because I was like, I got to make this episode great, you know. And yeah, The Greater Good was my first Xena episode that I directed.
Wow. Now, how was it, you know, being from Michigan and moving halfway around the world in New Zealand? What was that like to work in New Zealand at that time, pre-Lord of the Rings?
Oh, it was, you know, what was cool is like I was vaguely aware of New Zealand. I mean, you know, yeah, I think I saw it on a map, you know. So I wasn't really too much aware of it, you know, except for the Hercules shows they were doing there. But what was great was when I signed on, they said, well, you know, you're going to do the whole season, so we're going to move you down there. So I got to move down there. I moved the whole family down there. And I just remember flying down there and drinking the New Zealand wine the whole way. It's like 17 hours, you know. And so when I got there, it was kind of wasted. I got off that plane, I'm like, oh, wow. And it was pouring rain, you know. But then on the next day, it was sunny out, and the green was so green. It was almost like, it was weird. It felt like people painted everything, you know, like the trees were painted. It was such fluorescent.
Yeah, Josh has said the same thing to me, that it just was almost too beautiful.
It is. You know. And it's like you watch Lord of the Rings, and, you know, when they're out in the, you know, they obviously built a lot of stuff on that, but that lush green and that look is there, you know. And so it was just.
Yeah, exactly.
It was.
Hey, I wanted to bring up two things while we're on the subject of that. Weta got its start working on Xena and Hercules, as I recall, right?
I think he started a little bit before that, but he did coming on those shows. He actually, I think, is where he started building up a crew.
Oh no. Okay. I know what you're saying. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And of course, a lot of people don't know the Weta itself is actually a New Zealand cricket grasshopper, and it's giant. It's a beast.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Ridiculous. But Monkey Jeebus brought up something that I was wanting to talk to you about was Kevin Smith. You got to work with him before he died.
Yeah, actually, I directed him in one of my episodes.
He played Ares, right?
Yeah. Just a prince, you know. It's just like you meet these people, these actors that are not, you know, it's not about the celebrity thing. He's just like a regular guy that's doing his job and enjoying it. And everybody was important, you know. Everybody mattered. So it wasn't, don't go out of your way. I'm good. I'm okay with this, you know. And you know, that's the kind of guy he was. And I didn't get to spend much time with him. I think I worked with him about 3 or 4 days on the show, maybe 3. But it's like letter perfect, you know. You talk to him and it's like directing him, you know. It's like the same with Lucy, you know. As a director, you know, they're looking for certain things. And as long as you feel that, you know, like they ask a question or whatever, but they were so easy to work with, you know, and I had like, well, here's my idea. What do you think? You know, I think if you do this and that, well, I don't know if I do that. I'm like, well, can you work your way over there so I can get you by the wagon? Cause I want to do this. Oh, that's a cool shot. Yeah, I can get over there. You know, so Kevin was like that, you know, was just right on the money, you know. And so unfortunately, you know, like I said, I only got that couple of days with him, but he was one of the good ones, you know. He was a real trooper. And you know, I've worked with some people that were just real assholes, you know. And and then I realized later on afterwards, you know, I'd be mad and stuff, you know.
You mean our mutual friend Josh Becker?
No, other actors. And you know, you just don't know what other people are going through, you know, so you sort of have to take it back. It's not necessarily personal, although it's kind of hard not to take it personal when they're in your face, you know, and you're trying to direct them, but they're actors, you know. I thought I'd want to be an actor, you know, and I always thought, oh, it'd be cool, you know, run around and shoot people, you know, ride horse, do all this stuff. It's hard work. Uh-oh.
Wow.
My apologies.
Are you okay?
Hey.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Okay. I've never heard that happen before.
I'm sorry about that.
You hear
guys.
something like that? Usually something fell on someone.
Yeah.
But
My
yeah,
DVD collection is
a
overtaking
lot of
me.
people don't know how he passed away, which was he was shooting a film, sci-fi film, and I think he fell from a tower.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
Off. It wasn't while he was working; it was off hours, and I think they'd been doing some drinking.
yeah, I think it was one of those. Yeah, I don't know if I remember it correctly, but I think it was one of those hotels where I've been in a couple of them where, you know, the balconies and stuff. I'm trying to think, and they have sometimes they're like the railings are too low, you know, like it should hit you at the hip or whatever. But I've been in some places, you know, over in like in India, and you walk out, you go, "Where's the railing? That's the railing." You know, it hits you below the hip, you know. So I'm assuming that's what happened. Then I heard it might have been during a stunt, but I don't think it was. I think it was off hours. But I'm not quite sure. Yeah, it was pretty sad.
Yeah, it's hard to remember, but yeah, it's just terrible that he died. And they still, you know, had plans for him on the show as Ares, and they had to redo a bunch of stuff in the scripts.
He was destined for stuff beyond that show.
Yeah.
Another actor that I'm assuming you got to work with was Carl Urban.
No, I didn't work with him. He was on my episodes. He wasn't in my episodes, no, but Josh worked with him. I worked with it's interesting, the one Hercules episode I directed, it was Davy and Goliath episode where Xena helps David fight Goliath. And David, with the young guy who played David, was Anthony Starr. And he's in that big show right now, that Netflix series. But I remember him as, you know, as a young guy doing that. And he was good. He was very attentive and everything. And he just, you know, kind of hit the marks and stuff. But you don't know, you know. I thought, hey, he's good, you know. Maybe he might be doing something someday, you know. And then all of a sudden, a few years later, I turn on Banshee. I'm like, that's Anthony Starr, you know.
Oh, great show.
And just people go on, you know. It's kind of amazing. And then young Hercules, you know, I didn't really work on that, but I was kind of around.
Oh yeah, you got Gosling.
So I actually was up for at the same time Xena was going on. There was another series called Roar that was happening in Australia, and as a direct, so I was coming off of Xena.
So it's called Rawr.
And
I was
up for one of the directing gigs on that. I didn't get it. But at the time I had an agent, and it looked like I was going to be going to New Zealand and doing that. And of course that was with Heath Ledger, you know, but you don't know, you know, these people, when you're working with actors and, you know, they're good, like, oh, wow. But I'm always surprised because sometimes I work with people, I go, this person's going somewhere. And then they, you know, it doesn't happen for them. So it's just fate, you know, we don't know, you know, there's so much luck and so much of tenacity, and you know, it's getting luck and in at the right place with what they need, you know, or what someone's looking for.
It's all about timing.
It's timing. I did a movie called Spiders, and this was back in like 1990.
And there were spiders in it. Don't get any ideas that was just a psychological title.
No, there were spiders, giant spiders in it. And the producers wanted me to hire these Baywatch babes. You know, they wanted like beautiful blonde boobs, you know, and these young women with boobs. Well, Toby Hooper was directing Crocodile at the same time. Well, he got to do his casting session first. We had the same casting agents. Well, he went through all the casting and he plucked all the ones he wanted. Well, when it came time for me to cast, there was very few people to choose from, you know, and then they started bringing in other girls who couldn't act, and they were just like Baywatch babes, right? And I asked the casting director, I said, you know, it's the girl next door, but she's got to be able to kick ass. She goes, well, I know there's this young girl named Lana Parilla who hasn't done much. She's done one or two things, but the producers won't like her. You know, she's a brunette, she's feisty, she's what you want, but they won't like her. I go, well, bring her in. So Lana walks in the room, and she just came from like, she worked at a restaurant. So she had a little mini skirt on and like these go-go boots and stuff. She came walking in, and I'm like, this is her, man. I thought, oh, please, I hope you can act. And she knocked it out of the park, you know, and she leaves, and I said, she's the one. And the producer's like, they didn't want me to hire her, you know. And finally, the head producer on that show, or the big executive producer, who's the head of the company, said, well, it's up to you, Gary. If that's who you want, you know, but you have to work with them. And so everybody was cool. And she came in and she did a great job. She's exactly what I wanted for the part. And I thought, she's going places, you know, and then she just kind of leapfrogged through a lot of TV stuff. You know, she's the witch in Once Upon a Time or whatever. But she's just done tons of things, you know, so it's kind of, you never know. But I get lucky from time to time, you know, with different actors and stuff. But it's kind of a crapshoot. You just don't know, you know, you're always trying to look for someone that's going to be good. And, but you never know where the career could go, or if it will go. You know, there's zero guarantee, you know.
Well, one good thing, you know, it's talent is something that is obvious when you see it. And so I believe that, you know, you guys worked with some people that definitely took off.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and but hey, Geek Time has to split and go back to work. White Keith. And Keith, did you want to say anything to Gary before you split?
Yeah, Gary, it was great to meet you, and I've been enthralled with the stories, and I hope we can circle back sometime. Just a lot of common ground.
Oh, I'll have Gary back on again. Trust me.
You know, I can really identify with those all-night shoots, and you know, when you're young and full of the piss and vinegar.
Oh, yeah.
You're right. I mean, you can
I'll
just
sleep when I'm dead, kind of thing. Yeah,
I mean, I'd go 3-4 days without sleeping, and now I can't go 3 or 4 hours without.
Nope. I hit that time, and it's like, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm thinking like, maybe I should start doing the naps midday.
Yeah, right.
Hey, look, old man naps are great, dude. I started doing them, and I find that I'm more effective.
The Kramer nap.
Taking that hour to 2 hour nap.
The Kramer thing. Kramer was like every 20 minutes.
The Spanish, who brought that to South America and Central America, the siesta, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, man. It reinvigorates you and gets you going.
Yeah.
But again, thanks for dropping by, Keith. I deeply appreciate it. Glad you're back from vacation.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're not around.
Good meeting you, Keith.
Good to meet you too, Gary.
Oh, and we lost Black Keith too. Wow.
He'll be back.
He'll be back. He's on his phone.
Fixing his shower curtain. So
take care, buddy.
Sure, Fat Steven, Gary, and Gary. We'll see you soon.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, back to you, Steven. We're starting back at the top. Let's get some questions in if you got any. I think he is walked away to make a burrito. So let's get t-shirts.
Okay. Oh my gosh. All right. Kind of running back to Army of Darkness again. I've heard that Bruce Campbell is really what?
Go with what you know.
Go with what I know. Yes. Well, I know Army of Darkness, and I definitely know the Robert Bronzi films. So Bruce Campbell, is he really a really cool guy, or
no?
What kind of guy is he?
Bruce is the worst. I mean,
is he?
What you see when you see Bruce, you know, that's all an act. He's the most unlikable guy. I mean, he hates people. He kicks the cats and dogs when he walks down the street. No, I got to say, he's kind of exactly like you see him, like whenever he's doing interviews and stuff, or, you know, his conventions. I'm just thinking back to when I first met him, you know, on Crime Wave and stuff. It was different,
oh, wow.
You know, but it was a young version of that. He had that energy, you know, and it was, he was always, you know, there was always a quick laugh, and he was always a get it done kind of guy, you know, but it was just always a lot of fun, you know, and he works, you know, he works it. It's like, he doesn't stop, you know, he's a worker, and he earned it, you know, he doesn't phone it in. He kind of does his stuff, you know, and he actually gave me some advice. I asked him, I said, I'm going to be going and making my first movie. I said, what advice can you give me? And he said, don't fail. And I'm like, don't fail. That's it, huh? And I'm thinking, wow, that's kind of shitty. I mean, yeah, sure, I don't want to fail. Well, what he meant was you just have to keep going because people give up, you know, it gets hard. It's hard. So there is, you know, it's going to be a hard road to hoe, you know, so you've got to just keep going. So what he meant is don't fail, keep going until you succeed. Whether, you know, is what he meant without saying it. But I always kind of remember that advice going, really? Okay. Well, he was right. So you just got to keep hustling. And that's what he does, you know, he doesn't kind of stop, you know. I always thought working with him when, you know, back in the early days, that his time was later. Like he was going to be one of those actors that when he was older, you know, and he had the age, you know, like in the 40s and stuff, you know, that there would be, you know, he would have more success. It just seemed like he had that character trait of a seasoned B actor, you know, an actor that's been around for a while. Mm-hmm. And I always thought he'd be more successful as he got older. I had no clue that it, you know, be like this. The other thing I was really admire is that, you know, a lot of people run from stuff like, oh, I'm not a B movie director, or I'm not a B actor. That's not a bad thing, you know. And I think Bruce took that and he said, this is who I am. And he turned it into an industry. And he just proved it's like, no, you just get good at what you are, what you do. You're not going to be Tom Cruise. You are who you are. So you make that work. And so that was always inspiring. I really love what he's taken and what he's done with it. You know, he just goes for the fans, and the fans he knows the fans put him there, and he's like, I'm the consummate B movie actor. I'm that guy, you know. Why not be the top of that field? You know? So he's a cool guy. Very, very, a lot of fun. He don't suffer fools though, you know. He'll tell you.
Yeah, he's also kind of a dick. And I've dealt with him.
You know, it's like, man, that bullshit.
Yeah, it's like because I told this kid. Well, I told this kid we're shooting the film festival for Running Time, and Running Time was our feature film for the festival. And so Bruce and Josh came to my very first film festival, and I told him, record everything. I told this kid, take that camera, record everything. So we pick him up at the airport. Him and Josh drove, and somewhere between the airport and getting into the car, the kid goes, oh, Mr. Campbell, is it okay if I record you? After I told him, don't ask him, just record. Is it okay if I record you? And Bruce goes, nah, I don't really. Nah, it's against my religion. Nah. So we got no footage of him. And I finally asked, like, what the fuck is going on? Why aren't you recording? He goes, Bruce told me not to, that he didn't feel it was appropriate with his religion. I went, are you fucking kidding me? You listen to him? Oh, Jesus Christ. And then the next thing he fucking does, he gets in the car, the same kid, and before we got in the car, I said, don't ask him any stupid questions. He will fucking wreck you if you ask him a stupid question. Because I was there once when somebody asked him a dumb question. They said, Mr. Campbell, this is like right after Army of Darkness. He's like, well, I've seen all three films, and I got to tell you, I just don't understand why none of them work as a trilogy. They're not really sequels, and I don't understand why you did that. I mean, aren't they supposed to be sequels? Can you explain it to me? He goes, yeah, well, obviously there's something going on with your head, maybe a tumor. And the kid's like, I don't have a brain tumor. You know, not like Arnold, like, it's not the tumor. He says, and he goes, I don't know, man. You better get that checked because something's wrong up there.
Yes, Ash really is that stupid.
You got to be careful asking for 3 times.
But, you know, and that all seemed to me like I saw that. I don't remember him being that way, you know, back in the first couple of things I worked with him on. He'd be sarcastic and stuff.
Well, he was being sarcastic.
Yeah, but
it was funny.
But I think I always felt like, because I saw him at some of those first conventions, and I saw he just whipped the crowd up, and I thought they loved it. Mm-hmm. It's like Don Rickles, you know. You want to, Rickles. You want to get.
Oh, I guarantee you, he was inspired by Rickles because he loves to insult.
Well, in his audience, and I think the audience, they wait for it. They want it. He knows what they want. They want that. They want that cocky asshole, that smart ass and, condescending and, oh, what do you think, and he played it. He plays it, he works it, but that's what the fans love. So, he's giving them what they want, which is pretty cool. But yeah, he's a lot of fun to work with. I did second uniform on his Man with the Screaming Brain, which is
God, I have that one. Yeah.
Wacky movie, really wacky movie, and Sci-Fi Channel. I didn't get that, but it was just it was fun. We made it, and it was a lot of fun. And he was all over the map. He was directing it and starring in it, and I mean the guy was kind of he's a workhorse. You got to keep up. He knows he knows what he wants to get. He figures it out, and then he's going to go get it, and
Yeah, because and you worked on Alien Apocalypse too, right?
Alien Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Because that was shot just before Man with the Screaming Brain.
Yeah, I did directed second unit on that, and I built the aliens and operated the aliens on that, the puppet aliens, designed them and built them, and it was a twofer because Bruce got the gigs, the Sci-Fi deal to do 2 movies, and he decided, well, let Josh go first with Alien Apocalypse to figure out how this crew works. How do you make a movie in Bulgaria? So he was letting Josh go first with Alien Apocalypse that he would star in, so he could see all the problems.
And I heard from Josh there were quite a few problems.
Yeah, there were, but I disagree with both those guys. I think they're overblown. I think they're overblowing it because I guess here's where I'm coming from. Somebody's paying money and you get to make a movie. Yeah, there's problems, but you figure out how you make a movie here. You figure out the crew, you figure out how to get things done. And then you figure out how to work a little bit their way, a little bit your way. But they always kind of bashed on Bulgaria, and I don't bash on them. I was happy to go there and do the work, So yeah, we sort of disagree on that point. I mean, they, when people say, "Oh, I'd never go back," I go back in a second. I'm making a movie. I'd go back to India and make the movie. I'd go back to New Zealand. It's hard to get those. I guess if it comes easy and you can go wherever you want to go, you can kind of be a little more selective. But there was a lot of issues. Sometimes the simple things were hard, the hard things were easy. So it's kind of a weird, flip flop. Like the doorknob wouldn't look right, but the door would, slide into the wall or whatever, so it was kind of a weird, switch of things. But I thought we worked it through pretty quickly. We worked out all the bugs on Josh's movie, and Aliens. And then Bruce came up like 2 weeks later and directed his. And then I moved over to do second year directing for him. So yeah, it was a good time. I had a great time. I didn't have the pressure they had. So,
well, I think Steven is back. Steven, are you back?
Sorry about that. I had.
That's okay.
Did I just kill Keith?
Yes, you did. You killed him.
How did that happen?
But
No,
hey, Steven, I skipped over you because you weren't there for a little bit. So, you got any questions as we move into the final act of our show?
It's pretty much kind of a different kind of take. I really don't want to know like who you've worked with and what the experience is. I want to know for the people that are watching, if you're going to start from somewhere, how hard is it going to be? What should they keep focused on? And will it get easier as you try to get through, like just getting through this industry? If they need to have that drive, is it going to be a lot of fire hydrants and sirens?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Pretty much, do you have anything that you can, like, advice you could give to people that want to get into this industry?
Yeah, I mean,
you also like, and how hard is it going to be for them, and how many failures are they going to meet along the way?
Well, I hope they don't have as many as I had, but the failure just makes it stronger. Like I was afraid. I mean, it took me a while to get in the business, and partly because I look back and realized I was just afraid to get off my butt, because sitting outside and dreaming it was perfect, right? The movie was great. It was a successful movie, and my career's launched because you don't have to face the problems. Well, once I got off my ass and realized that was holding me back, that no, I got to go out there and die on the set and figure, and have problems. It was amazing. The doors open, and it was weird because I realized what it was is that I had the energy and I had the drive to do it. And I realized people want to follow people that have the drive. So if you have the desire to do it and you want to make movies, it doesn't matter how old you are. Seriously, it doesn't. It's the idea. You can do it. You just have to be prepared to go, okay, if I want, do I want to be an overnight success? There's no such thing. Buy a lottery ticket. So you just got to want it. You got to want and enjoy the process of doing it. If you can make that be the most important thing, then you're going to be okay. You're going to have some failures, but that would be my advice is like, want to do it, get in wherever you can and go for it and fail, because you're going to learn the next one. It's going to help you on the next one. Does it get easier? Sometimes it does for me, and sometimes it hasn't. This last movie I did was very tough for me to do because I got stuck at, shooting odd hours, 4 in the afternoon to 4 in the morning. Well, I'm not 18 anymore, so it was really tough for me. But it's getting off your butt and getting out there, and I guarantee you're going to be surprised. People want to follow people that are leaders. And if you have a wacky idea or you have an idea for movies and stick true to that, so you can be an individual. Like, you don't want to be Zack Snyder. Well, I'm going to be Spielberg. No, who are you? There's only one of those guys. So you make a zombie movie. Well, then figure out how to make one we haven't seen, but figure out something cool. But make it your own thing and have it be special, and you've got to stick at it, and you're going to hit a lot of problems. My biggest thing that I didn't do is I learned everything about making a movie as much as I could when I went out there to make my first movie. I learned nothing about selling the movie or distribution or how Hollywood worked or whether they would pay you for your movie.
That's a problem with a lot of filmmakers, though, Gary. I mean, look at Josh, for example.
Okay. So there's the thing. Hey, I want to make a zombie movie. Great. Who's going to buy it? What's your competition? How much are you going to spend? Do you want to get your money back? You need to know, is there a market for this product? Or is it just for me? Josh makes movies and sometimes he goes, I'm just making this for me. And he makes good movies, but there's nobody buys them. Then it's for him, so you got to decide what you want.
Because you and I've talked about this before, that you have to decide, are you going to try to make a living at this?
Right.
Or are you wanting to make movies for the
Yes.
art that's in you?
And if you can swing the other job that makes you a living while you're doing your movie stuff, that's great. I tried to do it in the business by doing effects for other people and stuff. So that kept me close to the wheel. The problem is most of the jobs I got didn't pay very much money. So I was constantly struggling for money. But I had the goal of making the movies as the career. And I thought, my dad told me, get good at something and you'll always work. Well, it's true, but it's not 100% true.
True.
People still got to want to hire you.
It's that basic truism. Yeah.
So you have, and what I discovered is people liked my movies, but what I also discovered is they wanted the writer. They wanted the original idea more than they wanted me as the director. So I shifted and went, I got to write and direct my own stuff or find that great script. So my advice is, if you can write, you write something and direct it and make it, because now you're coming as a package. Well, if they don't like your direction, they like the story, the content, they like your writing, so you're coming with something because it's about the ideas.
Exactly. Yeah.
I thought if I got good as a director, I'd always work. Not at all. It doesn't matter. I worked on Sci-Fi Channel movies where they paid a certain amount of money when I started. Within 5 years, they were paying 10% of that money. And I couldn't do the job. They were getting kids out of school doing them because they got a shot at making a movie. And it paid them $3,000. I'm not.
Yeah, that's what ruined my professional art career. During the big layoff, they started hiring guys right out of college to do what I do.
So you got to have a voice. I think you got to be prepared for the long haul, but you got to find the love in doing the work, because it may not pay you the money. But I guarantee you, if you get out there and you're doing it, you're going to be amazed at how many people will want to join you on that journey. Because we all inherently want to follow someone. I mean, I follow Sam on the set and watch him do his thing, and I'm learning from it. I'm like, guy's he's the same age as me. He's in the director's chair and I'm standing out here getting laughed at, with effects. So it was just interesting. You have to really want it, and you have to accept the failure, and the rejection is huge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to introduce, I'm sorry, Stephen, I will get right back to you. Our buddy Script Doctor has joined the room. Script Doctor, PhD. He works in the film and television industry as well, and his identity is unknown because he's a superhero, and he has to hide that. So, Script Doctor, I want to introduce you to my friend Gary. Gary, Script Doctor.
Hey, Script Doctor.
Hi, Gary. Nice to meet you.
Don't hold it against him, Gary. He's also Canadian.
Okay.
Yeah, but I grew up to the town very close to Michigan, so it kind of counts.
Let me see. Windsor.
But, he does work in the industry, and I'm glad you could make it to the last part. Go ahead, Stephen. I'm so sorry I interrupted you.
I think that what you said is pretty much perfection within itself. It's not, you got to choose your road. You also got to make sure what you're doing it for, and accept what people are going to take from it or want to follow you for it. The other thing is, because I've been seeing this a lot lately over the last few months, whether it be a YouTube creator or some type of streamer or like an independent film creator, there's a point now in this generation where people think that failure or criticism is considered a type of harassment. And it's no longer the basis of constructive to make you push yourself forward. It is now turned into a point of pointing blame, that is the person trying to help you with that criticism, as being the enemy. Is that stagnating the growth between imagination, doing what you want to do, and pushing yourself forward, understanding that failure is not a reason to give up?
Well, for me, I've gotten a lot of stuff, from my first movie on. And I've had people go, "Oh, it's great, it's great, it's great." And I look at them and go, "Come on, what doesn't work? What's not right?" I need to telling me it's great doesn't help give me anything. Unless you're just going to hand me $1 million. Yeah, it doesn't do me. It's doing me no good. So I got a lot of it, throughout the years, and I'd read it all. I wouldn't take it personally at all, because it's, again, I put the work out there, and it's going to get whatever it gets back. I hope people enjoy it, but some people won't. I like to hear what they don't like, because I got to tell you, probably 7 or 8% of what they say, there is a problem. I discovered the problems. I go back and I go, yeah, he's right. That didn't work. So it's helpful. And it's a problem today, because, yeah, it is. I don't know how people take it today. I think people are a little too, we're thin skinned, and it's sad, because, we grew up, you get bullied, and, you fight back or get knocked out. I mean, your dad says, go in there and kick his ass, so it's a different time, but it's tough for people today, because there is so much of it, on the internet. It's just, you get like 67 things in 5 seconds, and they'll beat you up. But understand something: when you get criticized, you have to put yourself in their position and go, okay, I don't know their situation. They may be very talented people who are looking down at my work, because my work's not as good as theirs. There may be people that would like to do what I do, but don't have the guts to go try it, or are afraid to. Both of them are, and that's fine, so I don't know. So I just try to throw it out there, like, okay, throw it at me. If you don't like it, great. Just tell me what you don't like. I'll and maybe I'll learn something from it. But you can't let that stuff, it's never going away. People think we can change that. Oh, we can stop that. How are you going to stop that? it's human nature. You can't stop people from eating chocolate ice cream or vanilla ice cream unless you do away with that ice cream. So you got to just roll with it. You need to accept it. Don't play into it. The knee-jerk reaction is to fight back, right? Oh, screw you, I try to figure out what it is they're saying. Maybe I can learn something from that because I'm no genius, So I think it's a problem today. I didn't have it, we put the movie out there, and first thing that happened was the company offered us $1 million for that first movie. And I was like, I didn't believe it was real. Well, I found out we weren't going to get it, because it's Hollywood. But so that sort of justified something in me. Like, I get it. Hollywood's crooks. You got to really watch. You got to watch your back, So I think, I read all the stuff. I read the reviews. People say stuff. I always ask them, tell me what you don't like. Tell me what you like. What did you hate? What didn't work? Because I want to know if maybe I missed something, I think I'm getting better. But, I watched the movie and I go, shoot, I screwed up on that. I hope nobody sees that problem. And so, yeah, it's a tough time. I just tell people that you got to get a thick skin. I mean, if you don't have a thick skin, you're not going to make it in the world.
Yeah, you'll never make it in the arts of any kind without a thick skin. Before we move on, I need to thank Rod.
You have to understand that, too, that work you do something and put it out there for people.
Roger that. Hey, I want to thank Roger H. for the $1.09 super sticker. Thank you, young sir. You're a kind gentleman, and you don't drink whiskey. In comments, I want to point out that CJ says, we live in a time that's encouraging creative people to make a movie is very needed with all the garbage Hollywood is scraping or crapping out these days. Let's see. CJ continues with another good one. Is Drag Me to Hell. Let's see. Kate Rowan. Sorry. That's because no one took art in school, so they don't know what a critique is or how to take them. Very true, Stephen. Monkey Jeebus. Sometimes the criticism comes from people who don't understand it, so it's hard for some people, to express because they don't understand. My greatest frustration is when people can't express what they're trying to say to me about their criticism. I just don't like it. I'm like, yeah. I don't let any of it faze me as a creative person. I never married to anything. And I found that that's the best way to approach things when you have to work with bosses, editors, or directors. Don't be married to it. Right?
That explains the divorces there, Gary.
Well, yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think, though, it's helped me through life in a bigger way because, getting rejection, you're going to get it everywhere. You could just be making your movie or writing a book or a painting or anything. So you need to be prepared for it, but you need to try to evaluate what's behind it. It could be someone had a bad day. They just don't like it, or they don't like that kind of thing. So they feel like they have to tell you.
I had a boss once
trying to help you, but like they want to hurt you. And it's like, you can't let people do that, if that's where it's coming from.
But that is often where it is coming from, Gary, is that, I had a boss, she had a shitty day one time, and she just walked back into my studio and she just starts yelling at me about things. And I realized halfway through that it had nothing to do with me. Well, and I looked at her and I said, I just want you to know that I can't create another thing for at least another 2 hours because you shut me down. You did a good job of transferring your mood over to me. I hope you feel better, but I'm done for the day.
I've had that with one or two different producers on different projects. And it kind of ruined me for the rest of the night, like I finished and like somebody said that didn't work, or, you didn't get it, and it kind of bothered me all night. I didn't sleep. And then I got up, I go, I did the best I could do. Obviously it wasn't what they were looking for. So I had to redo it and took their notes, redid it. Scene was better. But the great part about it was they gave me more time to shoot the scene. I only had like a half hour the first time. The second time I had 3.5 hours. So I'm like, wait a minute, you know, I did finally get the scene right, but I actually had enough time to do it. So that didn't bother me. But I don't I look at those criticisms and stuff, and I think there's a real danger in letting it in as a personal attack. My whole thing is at the end, if someone doesn't like the movies, and look, there's movies of mine that I think are not the best, but that movie is done and it'll be here 300 years from now in some form. Somebody will watch it or download it in their brain. Who knows what? That's special. So I tell people that whatever you do, even if it doesn't make money or get out there, you know, it's going to be around longer than the people that the haters, but separate them from the constructive criticism stuff, you know? And I think that's what's important is you're doing something long lasting. So.
Cool.
Oh, Gary's muted. So while he's muted, I'm going to ask you a question, Gary.
Well, that was what I was getting ready to say is Script Doctor. I wanted you to jump in and ask a question, but I did want to add something to what Gary said is in the comic industry, we run into that all the time where, and I know a lot of comic artists, pros and writers, and I will inevitably hear somebody say something shitty about that person when they're not around. And my first question is, what the fuck have you done?
Mm-hmm. But
and so far I've been lucky. Nobody has turned around and said, well, I'm best-selling author, and
right.
I'm hoping that never happens. But Script Doctor, let's get going here, man. Get your first question out, buddy.
Well, Gary, like I know that you have extensive experience and expertise in special effects. And I was wondering from that doing that, what skills did you find in special effects that translated over to directing that you think is useful to your skills and something that you can pass on to others that would be interested in following a similar career path?
It's interesting. I think I touched a little bit on that same. I don't know if I went in depth, but no, it's a good point. When I started out in special effects, you know, we'd look at a problem and try to figure out how to get the solution. And we'd try to figure out how to do it the most efficient way, right? And the most inexpensive way within a budget, whatever we had. And so that's where it all came from. Like we were never given a lot of money. When my earlier career, we literally had like next to no money. So if we bought a gallon of latex or whatever we bought, you know, for $40, it was like gold. So we were always very conscious in trying to figure out the simplest way, you know, to get things done. So we'd always analyze it. And then invariably when I'd get to the set and do an effect and something would go wrong, I had to be able to shut out the fact that I was embarrassed, right? The whole crew's watching. I had to get it done, right? I'm like, okay, so I learned to figure out how to just tune it out and say, fix the problem. Well, cut 2 years later when I'm directing. And all of a sudden now I got a scene to shoot and I only have a half hour. Well, it's 3.5 page scene. I'm not going to get what I wanted to do. Part of the set's not available. So I learned, okay, break it down. You have a certain amount of time. What does the scene need? Well, you know, these two characters have to get to here and the guy has to open the book because that's the important story point. So that's what we shoot then. Start there, work back. So if we don't do anything else, you cut to it, they're opening a book and you're getting the story point. So I learned from effects to figure out how to minimize, because once you start directing, and it's happened to me on every movie, I make my plan and then I trim it down because I know I won't have the time to do it. And then I get to the set and now the birds are chirping and you can't hear the dialogue, you know, problems. It always happens. So I make a plan, then I imagine that I only have 50% of the time. But if I have extra time, I get to get those other cool shots I want that I'll probably cut later anyways. So that's what I learned from effects is focus it in, you know, get down to what's needed to tell it. Now, when that happens, I usually don't get to do the shots I want that I know are going to be the shots that are going to make me become a star director. Did you see that cool shot Gary did? The way he moved the camera in on that scene. I don't get to do those, right? So those are the first things I have to throw out. And I have to get down to as creative as the working director as possible, because the curves just keep coming and they're watching you. And if you falter, the crew is waiting. They're taking their cue. So even if you don't know what you're going to do, you got to pick that one shot or whatever it is and say, here's what we're doing, and get everybody working. And while they're working towards that, you figure out how to get to the next one. And I've had to do that time and time again with the effects, translated right over to directing. That was the main thing, really, is just working out the problems, figuring out how to get it done when the problems come at you.
Awesome.
Yeah,
and
Well,
when you do work with like an effects unit yourself, where you're in the director position and then you're dealing with someone who used to be in your position, do you have a different type of shorthand that you share with the newer effects guys, or do you remember to ask the different questions or set up things that you wish other directors had asked of you at the time?
Yeah. First thing I always say is, like, if I have makeup effects, I'm like, okay, you're gluing all that down. When's it going to look the best? He goes, the first hour I bring them on the set. After that, it's going to start falling apart. Okay, we're shooting the close-ups first. So I know what they're going through. I've been there. And I know that the struggle is coming. And so I figure out, what are they going to need? I mean, if I can do it and help them, I'm going that route. Sometimes I can't, but I know, okay, we're wiring squibs. All right, I know I want 30 squibs here or 20 squibs. I know what it takes. It takes time. You're going to do a retake, the cleanup. It takes a lot of time. So I try to figure out what they're going to be up against, and I already know what's coming. And I let them tell me, like, okay, do you need, you're going to need 15 more minutes, right? Or do you need an hour? What do you need? And they'll go, I need 15 minutes. And I'm like, you need 30 minutes. Because that's what I always used to say. Oh, give me 15 minutes. That's what I'd say, but it'd take me 30, So yeah, I do that shorthand. A lot of times too, like if I'm working with someone I've never worked with before, like an effects guy that's doing pyrotechnics, I go out to his truck and I go, show me the squibs. What squibs are you using? This Delamar or the MP Associates? Oh, you know these? I go, yeah, I used to do it. I go, show me this. I want to see the cool squibs. So I go and I meet these and I go through all this with the guys. And so let them know that I know the stuff and I know what it takes and, problems and stuff. And so we sort of get a shorthand pretty damn quickly. Because, I want the effect to work, I want it to be done. I want it to be cool. And it's a special thing. So I try to give them the leeway. I did get it sometimes on films, most times I didn't, we were part of the crew and we just had to be ready. But I have an affection for that because when I died on the set many times with failures and embarrassed in front of the crew when the effect didn't work, I thought it's not a fun position to be in. And I'm like, I don't want that to happen to the guys guys and gals working for me. So, plus I also want them to be creative and thinking ahead of, like, how do we give them more? Can I give them a little extra?
Well, to me, it sounds like you, because of that background, it makes you a more effective communicator with them, but it also makes you more empathetic.
Oh yeah.
So, but here, Gary, I wanted you to see, this is Jedi 6. Read what she said to me. I told you she's mean to me.
Jerry only ever needs 3 minutes for.
She's so
That's funny.
mean to me.
That's it, huh? 3 minutes. Okay.
She's always giving me shit. My joke would be Al Bundy. 3 minutes. What? You want me to do it twice?
Yeah, right.
And then Zach says it's the opposite of, quote, how can I stretch this to 5 hours slow-mo, end quote.
Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder. Gary, you look, man, we're coming up to the end of this, so I want everybody to kind of just jump in now. Let's do the melee attack. Everybody just rush Gary. Any questions or things you want to ask him about, even if it's not about his career, but about working in film, because Gary's been going at it for over 30 years.
He's
a real industry pro.
Is there a particular project that you've always dreamed of doing that you haven't done yet?
Yeah. It was the script that I wrote for my second film with the great Gunnar Henson. He was my writing partner on it. It was a story called Icebound, and it's something I always wanted. I thought it was going to be my second movie. And we, after we sold Mosquito, we took it all around and did a lot of meetings and stuff, and just couldn't get it off the ground. And it's a huge movie, though. It was pretty big, but I'd love to do it. I still think it can kind of hold up. Similar things have been done. I always see these movies come out. I go, shoot, that's kind of a story point I used in Icebound. It's always on the back burner, but I have it sitting there, and I definitely would like to do it at some point. It's just something I hit upon, years ago when I was doing Mosquito. I found this storyline and I just loved it. And it was based on the Franklin expedition. And I knew Gunnar Hansen was, sailed in boats and stuff. And so I called him up. I said, hey, you want to write this with me? And so I have this, great memories of Gunnar Henson coming out to my house in California. And we'd sit out in the backyard with whiskey and cigars and wrote this screenplay. And he'd come and hang out. He'd bring lobsters from Maine on the plane, and we, in his suitcase, and we'd throw them in the pot and sit out in the backyard and write this script. And we just had such a great time. So I'd love to make it at some point, but I need a few $1 million to do that one. So maybe it'll be the next one.
Next, Steven, t-shirt.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay. Well, I'm looking over here at my shelf right now, and I'm looking at Once Upon a Time in Deadwood and Death Kiss. Did you work on either of those?
Death Kiss is I executive produced on that with my buddy Jeff Miller. Called me up and said he was doing this ripoff of Death Wish, and he's got this guy that looks like Bronson. And I go, don't do it, man. That's stupid. And then I thought about it. I went, no, that's brilliant. And so I helped him produce that, did the effects on that. And
I can hear the answering machine on that one. Yeah. Hey, that last message I left, ignore it.
Well, no, he was like, he kept calling me. He's like, so you're going to give me some money to help finish this? I'm like, yeah, I'm in. God damn it. Yeah, I sent him a bunch of money. So, but yeah, that was that one. And then I met Bronzy at Texas Frightmare, and I brought him on board my Escape from Death Block 13, and we shot Escape from Death Block 13 in 2018. And right after we shot that, Jeff grabbed Bronzy and took him back out to LA, and they did Once Upon a Time in Deadwood because Jeff he thought he could write on the coattails of Escape from Death Block 13. Well, I fooled him because the movie took a little bit longer to finish since I ended up doing most of the financing myself. And so that movie came out. So I've only done the two movies and only directed him once. But we made a deal at Texas Frightmare over a couple of drinks that we do 3 movies. So I got to make at least 2 more movies with him.
Oh, damn it. Yeah, for sure. And by the way, when Death Block actually hits Blu-ray, I want a signed copy from you, man.
You got it. Yeah, right. We're out to distributors right now. I think I'm going to have a deal in about a week or 2. And I think we'll be coming out before the end of summer. I'm going to do, I don't know if there will be a theatrical with the distributor, but if there isn't, I'm going to do kind of limited release with it this summer myself.
Are you going to set up your own store?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to set up your own store?
No, I probably won't do that because the distributor is going to handle everything.
Okay.
One of them might do some limited theatrical, but if they don't, I'll do the limited theatrical myself and take it to drive-ins and stuff and theaters around, kind of take it all around. That's what I'll be doing the rest of this, summer while I'm.
Plus, we need to do some prints of this new poster and
yeah,
I'll sign it and shit.
I had if you do that, then I definitely want a signed copy for both of you.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Well, if Gary does that, then I want a signed poster from both of you.
There you go.
And somebody else was asking a question. Who was it?
That's Steven.
Was it Fat Steven? I couldn't tell because it did this analog thing. It was really weird. Steven?
The question is, if you can't get the distributors to go out and do the theatrical stuff, I don't want this to sound as a trap question or make you look like a bad person, but have you ever thought about doing a YouTube premiere, and would you want anyone specific to maybe host it or watch party it to maybe get it out there, like do like a premiere night on YouTube?
Yeah, actually, so my game plan going in, and it looks like I won't be going that route, but I actually thought about all those things. Like, if I didn't get the deal I wanted with the distributor, I'll just do it myself and do a YouTube thing or whatever, I'll figure it out, call you guys up, figure out how to do it. So I know there's people doing things like that.
Yeah.
But from a distribution standpoint, it looks like I'm going to get, a decent distribution. So, we'll see. The jury's out, but I think we're going to land something that's going to kind of take care of it for me. And
That's awesome.
If that's the case, then I may just handle, the limited release thing, because I really want to take it around. I have drive-ins in Ohio and Michigan and stuff that will play it. And I thought in California, so I thought, why not do that? Take it around and get some promotion. It's a way to help launch it. But I'll be honest with you, I thought about the whole YouTube thing, and I'm even thinking about it for my next one of like bypassing distributors, because it's tough. It's at a certain level, you're off it goes, and they got it for a few years, and they're handling dozens of movies.
And the second part is I don't signed copy, sure, if it's available, but can I just have a signed plaid shirt, sir, if that's okay? At least I know you're wearing it, so at least I know I have some DNA to clone.
Would you literally give me the shirt off your back?
Yes. I was actually gonna put the flannels on. I have flannel. I usually wear flannel shirts from the 70s. I've been wearing them since the 70s, and it's like they've sort of gone in and out of fashion about 50 times. I don't know if they're in anymore, but I just wear what's comfortable. I sort of stopped worrying about. I used to dress a certain way when I first got out to LA. Like I thought what they wanted, and I'm like, I can't be what they want. It ain't gonna be that. So I'm like, screw this. Either you want me or you don't want me. I can't. Can't fight it. So.
Well, T-shirt, script. Do either you have any questions, Keith?
I'll let script go.
Well, I actually have a fascinating one, because I know that you directed 2 episodes of Sheena, and I was wondering how you got involved with that, and how do you handle that type of atmosphere compared to what it is when you're making other movies? Because I do know you're around like a lot of beautiful women. Some can act, some can't. Sometimes you have control over the cast, sometimes you don't. How do you reconcile that and as a professional, and how do you find yourselves in some of those situations, or how did you find yourselves in some of those situations?
Well, so I got once I'm in the situation, I'm kind of a blabbling idiot with the girls. So I don't know. I just say go, and we just point to no. I got Sheena. I got because Steven Sears wrote my episode, The Greater Good, that I directed. And I said, man, you gave me probably the best episode of the season. And he really liked the direction I did on that. When he left Xena, he got on that Sheena the Jungle Queen. The first thing he did was call me up and goes, hey, I'm doing Sheena the Jungle Queen. You got to come on here and direct. I'm like, I'm on. He goes, but you have to do 2 episodes. I'm like, oh, really? Okay, no problem. And we were shooting in Florida. And so that's how I got on, because he really liked the episode I directed of his script. And the other part was, Gina Lee Nolan was the star of that. And it was tough because it wasn't, Lucy was different, because Lucy was on the ball pretty quick.
I'm gonna go upstairs.
But Gina, I think, was still trying to figure it out. And it was a little tough. She was a little uncomfortable, or a little at ease at what she was doing, I think. And so, we just had to roll with it. But luckily, all the supporting cast and they were all really great. Everybody was really good on that. It was a lot of fun. And it's kind of tough because I usually get a lot of flack on Xena. I had the Amazon women. I asked for different costumes because I didn't like the older costumes were too bulky. And the costume designer said, they're going to hate you. I said, well, the guys, can you make the costumes a little bit skimpier? And she made them real skimpy. And of course, we shot the scenes. It was freezing cold, and you know.
Paid off.
But exactly same thing on Sheena. You know, it was like, but she was great. You just had you have to meet each one of these actors. You know, like I always have to figure out how am I going to talk to them. You know, am I going to shout faster, slower, or 10%, or do I have to go up and talk to them? You know, so I always kind of meet them ahead of time and try to. You know, I've got 20 minutes to figure that out. You know, maybe an hour if I'm lucky. And I don't always figure it out. With Gina, I met her and it was like, yeah. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just have to explain it on the day of what I'm looking for, you know. And she picked it up pretty good. She started to get it, you know, but it was a little rough. But I think she did it the best she could. But yeah, you just have to find them. You have to find that working with each of the people, you know, each one's different, you know. But
and something to note that Forbidden Fruit and the Full Monty are some of the highest rated episodes by the fans of those episodes. Yeah, like they're listen. Anytime you get on IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes, I think anything above a 7, you did really good. Like that's one of the things. Because majority of the stuff is usually 5 or lower across every genre in film.
You know, I actually should go back and look because I had kind of stopped looking years ago. But I'll tell you. About once or twice a year, I get a residual check, and I'm like, cool. I mean, you know, I can get a cup of coffee with them now.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I hang them on the wall when they're like a nickel or a penny. I've got a lot of those. But no, those 2 episodes, actually, I like them a lot. I think I did a great job with them, and for some reason, I didn't get called back, and I'm not quite sure why. You never know.
That's weird because when you look at the entire retrospective of that series, now I haven't seen every episode. I remember watching it when it aired as a kid because I was a teenager. But yeah, like you take a look at all the ratings across the board, and yeah, yours are some of at the top there. So clearly, you had the best interpretation of what the scripts were handed to you were to get something good and effective out from those episodes.
Well, I must say I felt pretty. I mean, I liked those scripts, you know, and both of those. They veered off in some different directions, and I got to do other characters. That was actually the same thing with the script for Xena Warrior Princess I did, called The Giant Killer. That was written by Terrence Winter, who, you know, Sopranos and all that stuff. That was one of his scripts, and I think I read somewhere he said he never could figure out the show, and he turned in the script, and he wasn't happy with it or whatever. I liked it a lot. You know, it was Davy and Goliath. I thought I had a lot of fun with it. But yeah, the script, it's so important. I mean, it's cliche, but if there ain't anything there, you got nothing to work with, you know. And I've been lucky on some of these to get some really decent scripts and some really fun stuff, you know, and bringing in extra characters, these crazy, wacky other characters, which I think always helps. You always know what Xena or what Sheena's going to do. But you bring in those new characters, you know, and when they work, it's pretty cool. I didn't have as much success on Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I did 1 episode and wasn't called back on that one, and I kind of figured out why. But
that was a Family Channel one, right? For Disney TV.
It was Disney, yeah, ABC Disney, and but you know, a particular actor on the show had all the power, and that's who made the decisions if you're coming back or not. So. You know, it is what it is. You know, you're a guest.
Yep.
Lucky to come back. But I was happy to, you know, I had a great time on that one too. And I liked everybody on it. But you never know. That's the problem with TV. I thought I enjoyed the ones I did. I could care less about going back and doing a TV series because as a director, you're a guest. You can put a little bit of a stamp on it, but no, it's their stamp, you know? So you're directing traffic and you're trying to get everybody to like you and do what you want. When really you're just falling into what they want you to do. So it's not as creative unless you get a good script, you know, that's a little bit different. But I found from a director standpoint, it's not a director's medium at all. It's totally the writer's medium, as it should be, you know, because audiences are tuning in for those characters.
Yeah, unless you're very lucky, like Jim Burrows on Cheers, where he directed over like 200 episodes on that, right?
Well, you know, they do find, you know, some directors have lucked out, and if they really click and they get the vibe, and the cast and crew loves them, the producers like them, they're on, you know, and they become producers on it. I just never saw myself getting in that clique. You know, I did those other directing gigs, but I was always doing them as a leapfrog to another movie. I didn't see myself getting into TV and staying on a series.
Well, this is what you and I've talked about before, which is you do the jobs that pay but aren't the most exciting things, so you can have the time and money to do the projects you want to do for you. And I, you know, I like that you really, really embrace that and understand it. But I guess we've reached our 2-hour mark, and I think it was a very good show. It went really quickly. I was like, oh my God, we're after 2 hours, and I think everybody's really enjoyed themselves. So I guess that means we want to have you back, Gary.
We still actually have an audience out there.
Yeah, they're still watching. We'll actually have a few hundred that'll watch over the weekend. That's usually how it works. Cool. But while I'm thinking about it, I guess I need to thank our chat, who has been very interactive. Darius Munchausen, these are all our regulars too. Darius, Socks, Monkey Chibas, I freaking love that guy's name. Rowan, who is also Kate to us, Kylock, Zax, Roger H, Rebecca, who we love deeply, CJ Snake Eyes, who's a badass on the chat, Real Sean, Pat S. Now Sean is a comic artist like I am. And I love him. He's a really good guy. Pat S. Sven, who's actually normally a part of our panel, but he was afraid to join us today because he just didn't know enough about your work. And instead of just jumping in and having fun, he's like, you know, I'm going to bow out and let you guys do it. And I get it, but I wish Sven had come here. I like Sven. He's a really nice guy.
Come on to the next one.
Yep. And then, of course, Mike, the Mexican Iron Man, who's just an all-around fun guy, great guy. He's always throwing money at us. Him and Rebecca are always throwing money at us. I'm not going to complain. I love him. Our good friend Tim Possible and the amazing Mr. Tickle Trunk, who just, what a fucking name, right?
Yeah, that's a name.
And of course, Orville Nation, who is, we follow them. They follow us. Wonderful people. I want to thank the chat. Great time today. I hope you enjoyed the show.
And thank you, Six.
And I want to thank my panel, because I really feel lucky that I have one of the best panels going around. I was hoping Tom would make it here from Midnight's Edge. I wanted to introduce you to, but he got too busy and he couldn't make it. He sent me a message, but that's okay. They've got Friday Night Tights going on, so he's always got some heavy shit going on. Gary, thanks so much for coming on the show. I hope you enjoyed it enough that you will want to come back and do this with us again.
Oh yeah, it's great time. Yeah, I mean it's always good to. I love meeting everybody and you know, getting the questions and stuff, and it keeps me young, so it makes me have to think back. Get that.
Yeah, those of us with white in our beards, it really does help.
Well, you know, I'm really 28 years old. This is what Hollywood does to you, right? Movies. 30 years. Now,
for the girl that shits on me on every show, Six, you know we love you. I love you. You're wonderful. Now fuck off.
Brutal.
Oh, now she says you're dead to me.
It's tough love, man. That's tough.
I swear to God, you can't make her happy. Thank you, Darius. I hope that the next time we have you on, we'll get to do a little sneak peek of some scenes from the movie.
Absolutely.
And but until then, thank you everybody for coming to the show today. I'm going to go out. Don't leave the show yet, Gary. Stay here because we talk after the credits.
You forgot something, Gary.
I forgot something?
Yeah, you might want to ask him now so you can have him on by next year.
Well, yeah, because we're months out. We're 2 months out on the show.
Yeah.
So I'd actually like to get you back at the end of June. No, it'll have to be the first weeks of July. You think you'll be available in July?
Yeah, I'll check my busy schedule. Hold on.
Yeah, you know what I want to do? I want to have Frank Fosco, Chuck Dixon, and you all on at one time.
Oh my God.
And just confuse the shit out of everybody with your white
shows that
beards
made
and
us
white hair.
would throw them out.
Yeah, bring everybody on.
All that white beard and white hair, man.
I also have a white beard Steven Seagal avatar I can use as well.
Be better at Christmas, though.
But anyway, thanks again. Stick around for after the show. And
thank you.
This is our outro.
Goodbye, Chocolate Mousse. I'll never forget you. Goodbye, Ducroix. Take care of yourself. Goodbye, Deja Vu. I'll always remember you. And I'll miss you most of all, Scarecrow.